remaining in the world paled beside the glory the four wizards of Ynis Aielle had known only a few short months before the power-hungry Thalasi had reached too far, and had torn the very fabric of universal strength, had torn out the heart of the wizard's secret domain. After that magical fight, Rhiannon and Brian had run together, for they were on the western bank of the river near ending, while their comrades remained on the eastern side. Neither was afraid, and each had come to trust and understand the other, and for Brian certainly, and even Rhiannon, that had evolved into something deeper and more special. But for all the young witch's love of Brian, Rhiannon could not forget another, Andavar, the proud ranger of Avalon, her friend and her love, who had been slain on the northern fields. Grief prevented the young witch from giving her heart to Brian, and so, soon after Andavar's demise, Rhiannon wasn't sure that the wound to her heart and soul would ever heal. So she watched Brian go, and then let her promise fly away, replaced by thoughts of the more pressing situation fast approaching. The great river had been flooded by the magic of Rhiannon's mother, Brielle, the Emerald Witch of Avalon, and of Istal, the White Mage of Palandara. That watery deluge, the swollen river rushing down north from Brielle's land and the sea itself sweeping in at Ishtal's call from the south, had in effect ended the battle, stranding Morgan Thalasi and the bulk of his remaining talons on the western banks, while the combined armies of Elven Illuma and the human kingdom of Calva had made short work of those unfortunate talons caught on the eastern side. The stalemate had continued as fall turned to winter, but though the eastern fields of Calva, the forest of Avalon, and the mountain valley home of the elves known as Loch Silinalum were safe now, many monsters dominated the western fields and mountains. That was where Rhiannon and Brian fit in, combining their talents, his with sword, hers with magic, to hinder and destroy many of the rogue monster bands, to nip at what remained of the Black Warlock's army, playing their part in driving the beasts ever farther to the west, back to the swamp and the dark passes of the dreaded Corridul Mountains. Rhiannon brushed a finger over her lips and nodded, accepting this fate. Her expression turned grim as she, too, moved into position. Once set behind a large stone overlooking the pass, the witch sent her thoughts out to her friends. She and Brian would not fight alone this day. Strong and handsome Benador, with fair hair and dark eyes, the king of Calva, trotted his stallion up and down the riverbank, taking care not to move too close to the steep embankment, which was slippery with snow. To those who had known him before the battle, Benador looked haggard now, but even so, he did not appear as old as his 40 years. He had grown straight and strong in Avalon, secretly and under the protection of Balerion, Lord of Rangers. He had been trained in the fighting arts by Balerion's son, the famed hero Belexis, perhaps the greatest warrior in all the world. But now King Benador had seen his first real battle, the most vicious conflict Ynis Aielle had ever known, and the images of the aftermath of that brutal struggle, the thousands of dead, the fields soaked with blood, and the fall of these 4 bridges, marvelous and magical constructions of Aielle's greatest age, weighed heavily upon him. More than anything else, it was the bridges, he decided. The blood would wash away, and men die in their time. But the 4 bridges of Calva, each construction a gift of one of the 4 original wizards, had been meant as everlasting. A spur still stood on the western side of the river where the northernmost bridge had stood. That had been Thalasi's bridge, taken down not by the floodwaters of Brielle and Ishtal, but by the thunderstroke of the 4th wizard, the silver mage, Ardaz, who had stood tall and fearless against the horrid wraith that had served as Thalasi's general. King Benador looked long and hard at that spur, as he often did when taking his morning ride, remembering the fateful day when all the world had been turned upside down. He hoped the spur would hold fast through the ages, a battered reminder of what had once been, and of what must never be again.